The class of 2004. Old rats on a new ship.
Wait, Junior, I think you have it backwards. Those guys that just got out of prison are not rats.
W-R-A-T.
Jesus Christ, another one now. No wonder the papers are calling us the year of the rat.
Febby Petrulio, a.k.a. Febby, a.k.a. Fred Peters.
Tony.
Febby must have missed the memo that said that guys that are in witness protection should move a little farther away than a couple states north. The fact that Tony's weaving in and out of traffic and almost gets in a head-on collision with Meadows sitting in the seat right next to him goes to show the severity of the whole situation.
Dad, Jesus, what's with you?
It's all right.
But Tony still had to confirm for 100% that it was who he thought it was.
Hello, rat.
It's pretty fitting that it was a deer that helped distract Febby for Tony, given Tony's special connection to animals.
Good morning, rat. You took an oath, and you broke it.
Next up, Jimmy Altieri. I think it's safe to say that Jimmy Altieri is not one of the brightest crayons in the box, and this scene really illustrates that well, I think.
They were asking me a lot of questions in there, you know? If I knew anything about the dead Colombian and the apartment and all that. They were putting the screws to me like I was a school kid, telling me that the money was marked. They even said that there's a new fingerprint technique that lifts it right off the bills.
Jimmy wasn't able to call for help on his radio mic because he didn't have time to put on anything decent. Next up, Black Jack Massarone. I love how at the end of this scene, Tony tells Jack to watch you don't get followed meeting me.
But I'll see what I can do. In the meantime, call animal control. Watch you don't get followed meeting me.
And then, of course, 3 seasons later, in Rat Pack, we find out that Jack has, in fact, been followed.
You weren't followed here, were you?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty careful.
All right. Everything else okay? Good EKG and shit, huh?
Yeah, I guess.
All right.
Next up, Sal, Big Pussy Bonpensiero. So Tony first became suspicious that Puss was a rat in season 1, episode 9, and that was because Detective Vin Makazian told Tony that a colleague of his at Organized Crime Task Force had mentioned Puss's name as someone who was talking to the
I
government.
don't want to hear it.
Well, you're gonna hear it.
The fuck? Don't bring that in here. Wait outside in the car. I'll come out.
You want to see Terry's bills from Villanova? And Matt and Kevin right behind him?
Hey, Sal, you need money, you come to me. You hear what I'm saying?
Don't be moving that age no more, puss. Don't be moving that age no more, puss. Don't be moving that age no more, puss. It's too risky.
I always wanted a house by the ocean. Maybe in another life. Things are happening, Tony.
What kind of things?
Things.
You got anything you want to say to me?
So as we see, Puss is making very cryptic comments, which would definitely raise a red flag for me if I were Tony. But what makes this extra difficult is Puss is one of Tony's best friends.
Nothing.
Not just a friend of ours, but actual best friend.
Now go down and enjoy your party.
Make your parents happy. You got your health, your family. Enjoy it while you can, while you got it all in your hands.
But it wasn't until the season 2 finale, Funhouse, that Tony got 100% confirmation that Pussy was a rat.
You passed me over for promotion, Tom. You know.
Well, that's the difference between pussy and the others. Leave me alone.
Next up, Raymond. So what about my Alan Stewart shirt from that meeting, Curto?
Two-faced fuck. To sell out your friends and save your own ass? It's despicable. That's one ride I would have loved to have been along on.
And with Ray, not only was he willing to cooperate with the FBI, he was like very enthusiastic about it. Even to the point where he was coming to them with new ideas for where he should wear the wire.
Tony Soprano's mother's wake is tonight. Want me to wear a wire?
Why not?
So here in season 6, episode 1, members only, Ray is sitting in the car with FBI agent Sanseverino, and he literally just croaks, simply croaks. Heart attack apparently.
He was a good kid, Raymond.
The best.
Stand up guys like that, they're a dying breed.
Next up, Adriana La Cerva.
Actually, murder. It was a cousin of mine. Anyway, last time we went to a funeral, my boyfriend bitched me out over what I wore. It's his boss's mother's wake. I said, come on, you think Tony even noticed for like 1 minute what I had on? But he keeps on about everything.
I was gonna go sit with the Starbucks.
So was I.
You wanna go together?
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, God. Can't believe I'm telling you this. Christopher don't even know. My own mother even.
Sometimes it helps to talk, huh?
Sometimes it also hurts to talk. But pretty soon, Adriana and Danielle have a falling out. And the reason that happens is one night when they were partying, Adriana offered Danielle Coke. She turned it down, but that wasn't why they had a falling out. Why they had a falling out was because Christopher put his hand on Danielle's leg and was kind of trying to make a move on her, and Adriana saw. Of course, Christopher then blamed it on Danielle rather than admitting that it was him that initiated it. Of course, Adriana believes him. Why would she not want to believe him? And Danielle becomes persona non grata. So they have no choice but to just go right in, threaten to arrest her and charge her with possession and intent to distribute cocaine.
Holy fucking shit. Don't make a scene. You don't want to attract attention.
On one hand, we can say Adriana made a bad decision when she started talking to the FBI when they first brought her in. On the other hand, Christopher should have also done a better job preparing her for when a scenario like that occurs. So if you're a Sopranos fanatic like me, you probably already know this, but filming the scene in long-term parking where Sil killed Adriana was very difficult for like everyone involved. That's why they couldn't even show her actually being shot.
Go, Joey.
But just like how Puss stays on Tony's mind, we know that
Pocket.
Adriana stays on Christopher's mind too. Next up, Eugene Pontecorvo. Tragically, once Eugene realizes that he's not going to be able to retire, so to speak, either from being a government witness for the FBI or from being part of Tony's crew, Eugene tragically dies by suicide not long after.
Go ahead. His master's voice.
I love how Eugene's wife says his master's voice because she thinks it's Tony calling him when we hear Eugene's cell phone ring. But in fact, as we see, it's actually the FBI.
Haven't heard from you lately.
Busy, you know? My kid has some problems.
That's rough. Thing is, Gino, you gotta keep in touch with me. You're gonna have a chance to help out in even more important ways.
What do you mean?
We lost a major asset this month.
The way things are shaping up, you're a designated hitter.
Look, Ron, we talked about Florida, okay?
Gene.
I get that Eugene's no angel. Most of the characters on this show aren't. But the way that they're just so callous and indifferent, like, This is where you're useful, or you're shaping up to be a real designated hitter now that all the other designated hitters have croaked. I mean, it's like, way to make someone feel less than human. Next up, Larry Boy Barisi. Polly shows up at Tony's house one morning and tells him that the feds are over digging by where the body of the first person Tony killed was buried.
He says he hears it's Larry Barisi been talking.
But then all turns out okay, because apparently Larry told the feds that it was Jackie Aprile Sr. But the reason I wouldn't necessarily let Larry off the hook in general is because we know he has some resentment toward Tony for what he perceives as favoritism Tony shows toward his family.
It's Christopher I feel for. Please, huh? Let me tell you something. Anthony Soprano was very adroit at keeping his family out of the fucking frying pan. Both cousins. The rest of us...
And that brings us to Carlo Gervasi. Carlo most likely flipped to help get his son out of trouble, who had just been arrested for drugs. Livia Soprano.
Now listen up. I want you to concentrate. I know it's difficult. Remember the airline tickets?
The tickets were stolen.
Did you say that, or did the feds say that? What did you tell them when you were in the lockup?
As we know, Livia passes away right after this scene, but it's interesting to think about whether or not she would have actually testified against Tony. Now, normally you'd say, of course not, she's his mother, but she also did help arrange his assassination attempt, so for whatever that's worth.
Now, Barb will testify I didn't say it, but you gotta back her up.
I suppose I should have just kept my mouth shut, like a mute.
In the future, any kind of deal they try to make, you keep your mouth shut.
Last but not least, Christopher Moltisanti.
Any idea if I wanted what I could do to these pricks? One phone call and it's over.
Of course, we don't know whether or not Christopher actually made that call, but it's certainly interesting to think about nonetheless. So if I have one big takeaway from this, it's the following.
These things can work two ways, Skip. You can find yourself getting too close.
You know, one thing about us wise guys, the hustle never ends.
Why don't you call for help in your radio mic? He's in no position to go into the unknown not known.
Fuck about wait for it all to end, huh?
Yeah.
Been giving us shit, and I've had it.
I suppose I should have just kept my mouth shut.